Salam, jumpa kembali di Jejak Papua Channel. Koteka Wenda diwawancarai konferensi gereja-gereja Pasifik atau Pacific Conference of Churches. Koteka Wenda adalah anak dari tokoh pejuang kemerdekaan Papua di Inggris, Wenda. Di media itu, Koteka Wenda berbicara tentang ia bersama ayahnya telah terlibat dalam kampanye kemerdekaan Papua Barat sejak ia masih kecil. Dalam wawancara ini, Koteka Wenda membicarakan perjalanan dirinya dan keluarganya, tantangan yang ia hadapi, dan advokasi yang ia dan pemuda Papua Barat berkontribusi dalam seruan Free West Papua. Sahabat, PCC dibentuk pada tahun 1961 oleh tokoh-tokoh penting gereja-gereja Pasifik. PCC merupakan respon regional terhadap perubahan dunia dan kemerdekaan. Sidang perdana diadakan di Livo di Kanaki, Kaledonia Baru pada tahun 1966. Konferensi gereja-gereja Pasifik bekerjasama dengan Pacific Theological College yang dibuka pada tahun 1966 dan South Pacific Association of Theological School yang didirikan pada tahun 1969. Keanggotaan PCC adalah mulai dari Gereja Kristen Injili di Tanah Papua hingga Eklesia Protestani Moahi atau Gereja Protestan Moahi di Timur. Hingga saat ini, PCC memiliki 33 anggota dan 10 dewan gereja di 18 negara dan wilayah di seluruh dunia. Anggota PCC berasal dari berbagai pengakuan iman Kristen. 2 anggota baru diperkirakan telah bergabung dengan PCC pada sidang umum 2023 lalu. Sahabat, beberapa pekerjaan PCC adalah dalam bidang perubahan iklim, relokasi, kemandirian politik, energi bersih, anak-anak, perlindungan perempuan, dan kehidupan yang bertanggung jawab. Berikut ini adalah wawancara PCC dengan Koteka Wenda.
My name is Koteka Wenda. I'm 21 years old and I would describe myself as a Melanesian activist and also a digital storyteller, especially in this day and age. I like to use my social media platforms and any content to elevate my people's struggles and their voices. My heritage is that I'm West Papuan. My villages are Pugima and Pyramid, and those are villages that lie in the highlands regions of West Papua. And another island nation that I hold dearly to my heart is Papua New Guinea, and that's where I was born. I was born in Vanimo province in PNG, and I spent my first early breaths in a refugee camp, which is very unusual for newborns. And having this be my life story, like beginning of my life story, it makes me really appreciate my parents and my mum especially, who obviously gave birth to me under such difficult situations. But as you can hear by my accent, I spent most of my childhood and my early years in England, and a lot of people kind of mistake my upbringing and think that I've probably forgotten about my heritage. But my parents, again, I have so much respect for them. They've raised me up to be very culture orientated, and I can speak Tok Pisin, Malay, English, and it's, I think for a lot of people who live overseas and diaspora, we've learned to adapt, and that's something that I'm very proud of personally. But yes, I am here in Fiji, a very beautiful nation with very lovely, kind people, not on holiday, but for to lobby for my people. I'm currently travelling alongside my father, Wenda, and so far I'm learning so much, and I realise that although I'm young, it means that I have so much energy to give and so much to like soak in and contribute to my people's fight for independence. As I mentioned, my family story starts in our motherland, in the island of New Guinea. So I mentioned I was born in a refugee camp. So my early memories were spent alongside my mother. My father was a prominent leader inside West Papua, and he organised many meetings and protests to mobilise the people of West Papua. And at that time, in the early 2000s, there were talks of self-determination and independence. So in the early 2000s, my father played a prominent role in mobilising the people of West Papua, and the same message has not changed from then until now. From the early 60s, it's always been independence, it's always been justice for our elders and our family, and his work, it basically led to him getting arrested in 2002. He was arrested and detained and threatened with 25 years imprisonment for his work, just because he was fighting for freedom for his people. West Papua is a heavily militarized zone, and it's currently occupied by Indonesia. The Indonesian military and security forces have a track record of more than 50 years of human rights abuses. And so my dad, being a young Melanesian man, he sacrificed a lot for his people, and it ended up with him being put behind bars. So my early memories of my father, a lot of other young people, when they think about their childhood, they think of holidays or fun times. But for me, it was definitely seeing my father behind prison bars, and me and my mum would go and visit him and smuggle food. And again, all the charges and all the accusations against my dad were completely false. And this is typical for lots of West Papuan leaders who speak the truth. They get charged with false allegations, and by the grace of God, he managed to escape and came to the UK in 2003. And meanwhile, my mother and I, we were in hiding. We didn't actually realise that my father escaped until later on. We thought maybe he was assassinated in prison, because whilst he was behind bars, there were so many death threats, and he faced a lot of abuse from the prison system. So my life story, it's not a cute story, it's not an easily to express story. It's a miracle. It's an extraordinary tale, and I'm here speaking with the Pacific Council of Churches, and whenever I hear this story, whenever I hear my father telling this story, I can't help but think about how amazing and how powerful our God is. And I described myself at the start as being a young Melanesian activist and digital storyteller, but I'm also a practicing Christian, and I believe that from the very beginning, God was with us, and he continues to be with us as we fight in this campaign. 2003, that's when my family, the three of us, my mum, my dad and me, were reunited in London together. And my father, he always reminds me and my siblings that we didn't come to England to seek a better life, for a nice time. We came here for our people, and we're on a mission. So in the years that followed, the Free West Papua campaign was founded, and it began, and my father my whole childhood, he's been out of the country, traveling around the world, the Pacific, Africa, America, Europe, simply telling the story of our people. And we're very grateful for the British government for granting us political asylum. And now we're British citizens as well. But with this freedom, we realise that we have an opportunity, a privilege that cannot be, ignored or downplayed. Because a lot of our people back home don't have the opportunities that we do. I mean, I can speak English, for example, and I have a British passport, which means traveling and lobbying for our people is something that I can do and will continue to do. Can you remind me what was the question again?
It was about your family's journey.
Yes, the journey. So I'm also the eldest of 6 siblings. We are a big family, and we're your typical Pacific Island family in that we sing, we dance, and we practice culture. And I think having a big family means that we never missed out on that West Papuan community. Living in exile can be quite sad at times, because it means we are, separated from our family back home. But with the use of social media and like WhatsApp and Facebook, we are constantly in communication with our family. But I think my family's journey is one of hardship, but also one of great beauty, because we're able to carry ourselves with immense pride, and we're able to practice our culture, a culture which is currently facing extinction. It's currently facing exploitation, and the fact that me and my siblings are still alive and still practicing it is a huge testimony to our parents and to God's provision as well. But yes, our journey it's a very difficult story to tell. Sometimes it brings us to tears, but it's a story that... So I'm smiling because my siblings and I are just so creative and passionate about advocating for our people. We don't do it in the traditional, I mean, we do it in the traditional way, as in protesting and marching and rallying, but we dance and we sing and we perform our culture for our British friends. And we literally go, in my childhood, we would travel up and down different festivals and events and international cultural celebrations, and we still do dress up in our traditional clothes, which is, typical grass skirts and headdresses, island jewellery, and we make sure to always have the West Papuan flag represented in our costumes, and we dance. That's literally how we show that our culture is still alive and still active and still worthy to be celebrated and admired. And again, we don't shy away from protests. My childhood, it was full of spontaneous protests in London. We would literally take a 2-hour bus journey to the Indonesian embassy or to different headquarters or buildings in the city, up and down the country, with our handmade t-shirts and our Free West Papua flags. And one thing I really appreciate from my parents is that they understood that this campaign, it cannot continue successfully without the encouragement of young people. And so the microphone, the protest mic, was always passed on to my siblings, just out of just with the option, like it was never forced, but because they were so free to give us the microphone, it gave us the confidence to speak up. And that's something I want to encourage a lot of other young Pacific Islanders and West Papuans, is when that microphone makes its way to you, pick it up and use it. And if it's not making your way to you, go and ask for it, because your voice is so important. So my siblings and I, we have a history of involvement in this campaign, and my parents are not passive and not shy to bring their children along to all these different advocacy events. Pacific Island culture is huge for us. So in England, what's beautiful about living overseas is that a lot of Pacific Islanders who are living in the diaspora, we've built a community, and so we'll perform at different Independence Days. Recently we performed at Fiji Independence Day, and we performed a Melanesian dance, and our costume had the West Papuan flag colours, and people would come up to us and ask us questions, and little things like that let people know, our people back home in West Papua know that we have not forgotten about them. And of course, me being here is something that is assigned to my siblings, to let them know that this is also a family legacy, and to use our privileges for our people. I think because our culture is being oppressed and our land is at risk of being destroyed, our duty to protect our land and culture is important and can sometimes feel overwhelming. And I know for me personally, things like learning my native language, my mother language, which is Lani and Dani, it can be quite challenging, especially as I live overseas. But I know that there's no shame in asking family members and elders for help, especially when it comes to decolonizing our minds. This campaign, we're not just trying to decolonize our land, we're trying to decolonize our mindsets and how we see ourselves and how we perceive ourselves and how we carry ourselves. For me personally, I like to overcome this obstacle by sitting with my parents, asking them a dozen questions about everything and anything. How do we practice weddings? How do we? What songs can you teach me? What is our traditional costume? What does this mean? What does this word mean? What does this concept mean? All these questions have given me the confidence to speak about my people. It's given me more incentive to fight for my people and my culture, because I know the importance and how special it is. And I think often as young people, we often feel as though we need to have a degree or have years of experience in order to speak on a topic like decolonization or self-determination or justice. But actually, I want to encourage the West Papuan youths out there, the West Papuan movement in the Pacific is very much alive. We've had to deal with lockdowns and different, impacts of climate change on our islands, and so sometimes with all these different external issues, it's hard to always be 100% for West Papua, but I know that the hearts of every single Pacific Island community is very much in tune with the idea of justice and peace and freedom. And I think when I look at each history of all our islands and the independence movements, I think of how beautiful and how powerful and how unique Pacific Island resistance is. We practice activism in such a unique way, and living in England for 20 years and now coming to Melanesia and seeing how activism and grassroots level organising is conducted, I can't help but admire just how passionate our people are and how we're not afraid to incorporate culture and faith into our activism. As a West Papuan activist living overseas, it's actually the Pacific Island communities here that fuel my activism. When I see the West Papuan flag being raised at cultural events or at Independence Day gatherings, for example. And it was amazing because my family and my siblings and I, we were watching the live stream of the Vanuatu 40th anniversary Independence Day parade, and we saw all the different West Papuan flags being flown about, and it's refreshing for us, and I'm sure for people in West Papua who are also watching, to see how these seemingly small Pacific Island nations have the biggest hearts for their brothers and sisters, and that Pacific solidarity is key to the advancement of the campaign, and to let everyone know that this region is not silent. And another area that I see the Pacific solidarity is in our music scene. So many Pacific Island artists have written songs for West Papua, from Vanessa Quay to Ocean to Stan and the Air Force, and a lot of Pacific Island musicians will raise the flag at their concerts, like J-Boo, Catch a Fire, and for us, like, we can't pay Pacific Islanders to help. We can't like force, or we can't, we just, when we see the solidarity, we cry and we're amazed, because it's a family obligation. Pacific solidarity is a family obligation, and I think the Pacific Island communities can do more. We can always do more, and we've proven that when we are united and that we stand side by side, we're strong, and we can show the world that we are not divided by the ocean. A piece of advice that I want to give to young West Papuans and others listening, it's actually an advice that I tell myself when I, have moments of doubt, and it's the fact that I believe that God has given me and, everyone, all of his children, unique gifts and talents and skill sets that are just ready to be used. Whether you realize the skill set yet, or if they're still waiting to be discovered, they are there for a reason. And if West Papua can be that reason, then that's something that you cannot ignore. For me, music is one of my skills, and community actions and dance and culture and people and public speaking, that's my skill set. But I could just as easily as anything ignore it and be like, oh, but I don't have the authority or the confidence. But no, you have the skill set that cannot be wasted, especially as with each year that passes, my people's cry for help becomes even more important and vital to be heard. So whether you're a dancer, a public speaker, a videographer, a lawyer, a student, I think we need to dissect this word activism and not just define it in terms of someone who speaks on a panel or in front of a large audience at a protest. An activist is someone who feels the pain of their brothers and sisters and does something about it, full stop. An activist is not passive. An activist realizes that there's a space in the struggle for them to step in, and it doesn't have to be a big space. It can be a small space. It can be a creative space. It can be a listening space. But this campaign, it requires bold, confident, and eager, passionate people. And for me, a Bible verse that really encourages me is Matthew chapter 5 verse 9. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be the children of God, and they will be called the children of God. And that's what fuels my activism as well. Being a child of God means that I can't be a passive bystander to suffering in this world. In fact, I can be partakers in the healing of God's kingdom. And a message to my people back home is jangan lupa and jangan takut, which means don't forget and don't be afraid. And especially to the young people, you are so ready for this fight. You are so able to continue this fight. Again, just look at your skill sets. What do I have in my suitcase, in my wardrobe, and use that. So jangan lupa, don't forget your people, don't forget your elders, don't forget your history, don't forget who you are. And jangan takut, which means don't be scared, don't be afraid. This is a God-given fight, and freedom will come, and justice will prevail.